killed. And watching the game, it's easy to blame the offensive line. However, I got to give a lot of the blame to Deshaun Watson, and then also those coaches drawing up those routes for the receivers. Houston like to take a lot of deep shots, and they like to have the receivers run a lot of deep routes. And with that, the quarterback has to hold on to the ball a lot longer. And Deshaun Watson was just holding it on to way too long. There was instances where it's like, yo, you got to throw the ball. Like, you got to know that this blitz is coming. You got to make sure that you get rid of that. But to his testament, he stood tall, he stood strong, and he was able to bring his team back from, they was down, 16 at one point? It was down 16-0. Was able to bring his team back. The one play, the play that won them the game for the most part in overtime, where the two edge rushers come free for Buffalo and they got him. Like, it's a sack, it's over. But somehow, some way, he escapes it and then finds his hot read to his running back, and he's able to take it 30, 40 the yard gain down the field to set up the game-winning field goal. That play was just stupid. I'm like, oh my God, what just happened?
Yeah, man, I think again, it's kind of interesting to think, like, had you not watched the Texans all year, I feel like this was a great example of exactly what their quarterback is too. Deficiencies in the offensive line caused him to, be running for his life for most of the game and taking a ton of shots that he shouldn't be taking. And then again, just like he did in college, just like he's done before, which is why I think either one of his former coaches or somebody was calling him MJ. It was the
Dabo Sweeney.
Called
him Michael Jordan of quarterback.
Yeah, which I can totally see because he comes out of nowhere to make the phenomenal play. Again, walking through my mindset as I'm watching it, I watch him take that hit from behind on that final play, and I'm like, man, he might lose the ball.
Right.
Not only does he not lose the ball, he gets hit from the front as well, which might have been the thing that kind of stabilized him, right? Ironically enough. But spins out of that and then has the wherewithal to keep his eyes upfield. I mean, that's the thing that gets me. This guy just took two massive shots from his blind side, one of them, and still has the mindset to not only spin out of it and just take off running, but keep his eyes downfield and hit a guy for what ultimately, sets up the game winner. Just crazy. One thing that I'll say too, as far as defending their coaches a little bit, just in case, Bill O'Brien calls me or something for some reason. Hey. I want him to be on his good side,
Never know.
But they were without Will Fuller, too.
Yes.
Which I think was pretty big.
That's their deep threat.
Yes, that is the deep threat. He kind of takes the top off the defense. He was not available for the game, so that probably had a big part to play in why they came out so flat and couldn't figure anything out. Although, second half, of course, they looked much better, so I think that's coaching, too. And I don't know. Great game. Great game.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely an awesome game. So, yeah, Houston moves on, and they'll be playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the next round. Also, from that weekend, we had a different game here. Oh, let me back up there for us. So, later that was the Patriots and Titans that weekend, right? That same Saturday. So, this game here was this is like your typical old school 90s style football, and I loved it personally as a football fan. Watching Tennessee and Derrick Henry and that offensive line literally just take the soul of that New England defense was so pleasurable to the eyes. Ryan Tannehill, he did his part, 8 for 15, 72 yards, and he threw a dime to that tight end. That was a beautiful throw. So he really wasn't relied upon in this game. This game was about that Titans offensive line and the monster known as Derrick Henry. And New England had no answer. They couldn't do shit. Like, it was just imagine seeing somebody that's 6'3", 250 pounds, and is fast, and he's coming, and there's just nothing that you can do. The man had 34 carries, 182 yards, and a touchdown. And the whole game, he was just coming. And as Derrick Henry goes, and further deeper into the game, he just gets better and better and better. And it's to the point where you just like, I don't want to do this no more. I can't tackle this guy no more.
Yeah, man, he's something else. And I don't know what it is with him as far as second half of the season. But it seems like for the last couple of years now, he's really come on. He's been kind of a shell of himself early in the year, and I don't know whether the coaching staff just unleashes him, whether he's like on a pitch count early in the year. I don't follow the Titans super closely. My eyes kind of perked up when they started to start Tannehill, because that was my boy there from the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But that team turned themselves around towards the middle of the season. But again, this year, Derrick Henry just an unstoppable monster through the second half of the season. It's kind of what he was doing all the way down the stretch. But to watch him get 34 carries and 182 yards, just crazy to me on a defense that was kind of known for being able to stop the run.
They was the number one defense all season.
Yeah, and looking at this year, the stat that leaps off the page to me is that their leading receiver had 2 catches. That kind of says it all right there about what type of game this was. I think it was kind of 90s smash mouth football, which was kind of cool. And it's if you look at the league as a whole, the league is going back there a little bit. There were more 1,000-yard rushers this year than there have been like in the last 7 or 8 years, and fewer 1,000-yard receivers, which is kind of cool. The game kind of always goes through those ebbs and flows for a while, and it seems like right now we might be getting back to a place where that guy that can carry the ball 34 times for you in a game, might be a luxury. That's kind of nice to have.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad it's going back to that as well, because I think it makes the league more diverse. It's a copycat league, and when those spread offenses came, everybody adjusted, and it's pass happy teams, and everybody just putting up 35 to 40 games all over the place, and even so, there's still high scoring games now. Like, you look in Baltimore and, we broke the record for most rushing yards in the season, but we still led the league in scoring offense. You know what I'm saying? So, N'Keal Harry is still a rookie. He's still developing. And this was, people will say this is definitely one of the worst supporting casts that Tom Brady has had in his New England Patriots tenure. But I mean, it's still the Patriots. It's still Bill Belichick. And they're still the favorites until you see them lose, which we finally did see them. Yeah, man. It was crazy to watch. Honestly, it was kind of surprising to watch, seeing how Tennessee kind of dominated that game.
Yeah, it's it brings up questions. Is the dynasty over there? Is New England on the downtrend now? I think the answer might be that. It might be. Brady did not look like himself this year, despite the lack of weapons. And, I kind of keep saying that, right, to people like, well, despite the lack of, he didn't have anybody to throw to. But you know what? He kind of does. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like he had nobody there. Right. It's not like he had, just a bunch of bums. I mean, he had Antonio Brown for the briefest of moments. He's got Julian Edelman.
He had Gordon for a while.
He had Gordon for a while. He's got a couple of good tight ends. They went after Mohamed Sanu, who, if nothing else, is a solid number 2 or number 3 piece. And then you've got really athletic running backs that can catch the ball like James White. So he's got some pieces around him. But when you watch Brady himself, he doesn't have that same zip on the ball. He doesn't have any kind of athleticism. Not that he's ever been known for it, but he doesn't have any kind of athleticism left in the tank. And I think what it says, the fact that they were still so good this year, getting back to our earlier point, is that this is a league where you can win in a lot of different ways right now. I think that's my favorite part about it, right? You kind of talked about the differences between the different teams, but you can win with a running game like the Titans. You can win with an awesome, hybrid RPO type offense like the Texans or Ravens, or you can win with, solid defensive play and just, suffocating your opponents, kind of like the early San Francisco 49ers and how the Buffalo Bills played, So it's very interesting. But I think this team still really hinges on Brady, and until Belichick and that organization are willing to move on from him, because I'm sure Belichick's out there. He's a smart guy. He's on the trends. He's on the cusp, and he always gets the most out of his players. But it makes you wonder if he sees Lamar out there running around, Mahomes out there doing his thing, and here he is with this guy who's done so much for the franchise. But he's 43 years old, and he's not that guy anymore.
And he can't throw the ball further than 25 yards down the field without it being a duck.
Right.
Like, he, like you said, he doesn't have that zip no more, man. You can only run so many different routes with Tom Brady as your quarterback, which, I mean, he's fucking 43. He's about to be 43 years old going into next season. So, I get it. And it brings up the question, like where does Brady return to the Patriots and because he's a free agent.
Yep.
And there's a lot of chatter saying that he may be moving on from his career in New England. And so it kind of brings up the question: does the Belichick Brady era continues? And if it does, then how are they going to rebuild this team around that? Or does Belichick decide that, okay, maybe it's time to move forward? They got a late draft pick, so I don't think they're going to be able to find a quarterback in this year's draft unless, they're elite scouting team. So they'll probably be able to find somebody. Or do they go and sign one of these free agents like a Teddy Bridgewater? I was hearing some talk about Taysom Hill potentially getting a shot as a starter. I don't know about that. He's more of a gadget player in my opinion, but we'll see. Like you said, is the dynasty officially over?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I think that if we recall the beginnings of last season, there was all kinds of talk when Jimmy G got moved over to the Niners that Belichick really wanted Jimmy G to be Brady's replacement.
Yep.
Okay, and then I guess Brady, from what what I've heard, he went running to ownership, and they run Jimmy G out of town, thinking, this is still my team.
Yep.
And I think Belichick's smart enough to know that, Stidham is probably not the answer there. So I don't think that they move on from Brady unless they've got a good backup plan. So the draft will be interesting. And from the things that I've read and the things that I've heard from insiders around the league, they're saying that Brady doesn't want to go the Montana route, meaning doesn't want to wrap up his career with a different team, kind of like Montana did with the Chiefs.
Right.
So I think that he sticks it out at least one more year there, and maybe we see after that. But I would look for the Patriots to make a move fast to find his eventual replacement.
Yeah. If I'm New England, I think bring him back for at least one more season, and then try to find one of those quarterbacks to develop. But honestly, New England's not a team that I fear anymore. Like if you got Brady as your quarterback moving forward, that's a team that I kind of look forward to playing next season. Baltimore don't play. My team doesn't play him. But still, if you're, like in the AFC East, to me, that division is wide open. Like Buffalo, that's Buffalo's division to lose at that point, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward there. All right, next game, moving on here. Vikings and Saints. I will be the first to admit, I gave the Vikings literally zero chance of winning this game. Like, this is my stone cold lead pipe lock of the weekend. If I was like, if you ask me, all right, I need a surefire win, who's going to win? Oh, New Orleans, pick it. I had them blowing them out. I had it like a 43-10 blowout or some shit like that. I had a big blowout. But this game was weird as shit. This game was weird as hell, man.
Yeah, man.
Drew Brees, he didn't look like Drew Brees for a lot of instances in this game. And it was just like a lot of weird things is happening in Minnesota's favor throughout the whole game. And every time you feel like the Saints were just going to go ahead and take a grasp of this game and just move forward, something else weird would happen. Such like a missed field goal from Lutz, a fucking Drew Brees fumble as they driving down for the game leading touchdown and shit like that. I'm like, yo, what is going on? And on top of that, kudos to Dalvin Cook. He was, he ran the ball so beautifully. Now you look at his stats. He had 28 carries for 94 yards. He averaged 3.5 yards a carry and had 2 touchdowns. Now the yards per carry average, you really can't look at that as to see the impact he had on this game because, he was damn near unstoppable. Like, he was just making people miss in the smallest of spaces, man, and picking up key first downs. And he had one huge run that was called back because of some fucking bullshit-ass holding penalty. But, and shout out to Kirk Cousins, man. Shout out to Captain Kirk. Fucking, he lucky it wasn't prime time.
Yeah, big game Kirk. He showed his face.
Finally, Kirk Cousins, man. He played well. I got to give him credit. He played well. He made the throws when they needed him to make the throws, and his decision making was pretty solid. And that last throw of the game, well, not with the last one, but that one to set up the touchdown to Kevin Rudolph when he dimed Adam Thielen, that was one of the best throws. That's probably his best throw of his career.
Yeah, I'd completely agree that that's one of the best throws of his career. I know he had a couple of nice ones with the Redskins, but that's certainly the best throw he's made wearing purple. A lot of people were sleeping. I said this a lot. I said this to just about everyone that I knew when people were talking about it. A lot of people were saying